Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Takeaway, and today we have Justin. Justin, you got to preach. For those that don't know, Justin is a pastoral elder and one of our worship leaders, and you got to share with us on Sunday. So would you let us know just a brief synopsis on what you spoke about, and we'll go from there.
Well, thanks, Phil, but I just got to clarify one thing first. So I came very obedient, dressed all in black.
Yes.
Because Phil's told me, black is good.
Yeah.
And then Gavin told me, she's like, why are you dressed all in black? You need color. So, I just said, but this is I've been told by the expert that black is good. So I just need to make sure and get this on record and tell Gavin to watch this.
Perfect. You're correct. If you're preaching, I think it's nice to have color.
Yeah.
If you're leading worship, you can wear black.
No, cool.
But black is cool for the stage, 100%.
Yeah, no, awesome. Cool. So synopsis today, really just felt like I should preach a little bit on community and what that means. We mention the word quite often, we maybe talk about it, but thought opportunity just to do a bit of a deeper dive and really try and give a biblical view of what it is, why it's important, and also just try and create a good perspective on it. To show that if you look at the Bible, it didn't go perfectly.
Yeah.
And to just give examples how even Jesus in his small group had many challenges, the early church had many challenges, and just to hopefully encourage people that way that life groups, small groups, community is good. It's the way God designed it, but we need to have realistic expectations. And have perseverance because we're dealing with people and people get messy and so just to hopefully encourage people to prioritize their community aspect because it's good for us. So that was really what it was about. Found a few some scriptures and just try to encourage people around that.
No, it's a great topic, and I think it was a good reminder. We get to the end of the year, and I think, like you mentioned, our preferences and all of that stuff starts to sneak in because we're all tired and miserable and exhausted, and we can forget that community is messy because yes, again, we're dealing with people. But it's a great topic because it's one of our values. We often punt it so much about how important and a community is, and just the importance of doing life together. That we're not here to put on a show.
Yeah.
We're building community, and I love that our vision as a church, our vision statement is becoming His community to impact our community, and so there's an internal piece, which is us as the community that gather on a Sunday and on weekdays in our life groups, that we are becoming His community. We are shaping each other. Iron sharpens iron. Yeah. We're becoming better humans, better Christians. Yeah. But then there's a second part of it that we go out into the community and we leave a dent and we make an impact. And so it's a great topic. You had a few points that you kind of shared with us, and we'll kind of go through each of them as you go. But would you share just one of those, a few of those points that we can kind of have a discussion that's practical for the person to have an understanding of community and how they practically work it out?
I think one of as I was just preparing for today, one of the lines that stood out for me is that church is meant to be a family, not an event.
Yeah.
And kind of know this, but just the way that was worded kind of stood out to me again. It's just a really good reminder. And we can, myself as well, you kind of put so much focus and energy into the event parts of church, which are also important. I mean, these are all, having church in the sun and everything, those are all critical. But also just a reminder that it's a family, and to grow as a family means, doing things a certain way. I mean, it's just, just practical things. So, I shared, this year for me personally was one of the most difficult years I've ever experienced, for many reasons. And, just being able to have invested over years into some relationships and into some community was just such a blessing to be able to lean on those, going through those difficult times. And I'm not sure, how I would have coped, honestly, without that. And so, I was hoping that came across. And then just the practicality around it is, to build community, you got to meet. And you got to meet consistently. You can't build relationships if you just don't connect. And unfortunately, we are in a world, in a culture where connection for us means social media connection.
Yeah.
And we think because of that, because we have likes or follows or sent a message or somebody's looked at our Instagram post or whatever, we think, okay, now we've now got some kind of community or we've connected. And that's just not real connection.
No, I love it because people often do that. They're like, oh, I know so much about you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but I've never met you. And they're like, it's because of social media.
Yeah, exactly. And you actually don't know anything about me. So just the encouragement that you got to move beyond that. And if we really want to, grow and be formed, and that was one of the big things is just prioritizing community, believing that it's important, that we need each other.
Yeah.
And just, putting in, the effort and the perseverance to not cancel when things get tough. And difficult, but to see the good thing could come out of it, and just be intentional and make the effort.
Yeah, no, that's so good. While you're saying that, I think it's so important. Maybe the question is, for those watching, and maybe those who've struggled with getting in community, because you mentioned something that there's an intentionality. You've been intentional over the last 4 years in building a relationship with Dan, and knowing that you can call on him and say, hey, listen, I've had a rough day. Can you, just encourage me? I just need to be encouraged. I just need you to be I just need to vent and just, let it out. But, there's that safe space. And I think it speaks to just like the safety of community in terms of when people are there. But would you just give us kind of maybe some practical steps of how to practically do that? Because I think we do hear that often. Just build community, go to life group, whatever. But what does it look like? What did it look like for you to intentionally? And I know it's been I'm not asking for like a 4-year rundown, but if you can just give us like just a small little thing of what it looked like to practically be intentional about building the relationship, because you couldn't have, guessed that. At this specific year, this year you said was your roughest year, and it was like, this is 4 years later. You wouldn't have known that, that investment would have come back. You would have got the return on investment. So how would someone practically go through those steps in terms of?
That's a really good question. I think there's a few things. Just being down the road for a while. Being a believer and maybe just having a bit of experiencing that. For me personally, and that's one of the things I said, is that I strongly and firmly believe in connection, relationship, and community. So I need it. So I know that I need it and I want it. So therefore, that's the first step. It is a desire of mine, and it is a priority of mine. So I also come with the attitude of I'm okay to make the effort, make the first step. Do the WhatsApp. Do you want to meet? Do you want to have coffee? Even if it's not coming from the other side as the initiator, right?
Yes, yeah.
Because people are in different places and they're busy or whatever. So I'm okay to initiate, and then the person responds, and I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
I think some people, they get a bit, offended by that. They're like, well, I'm the one initiating, and it's not reciprocal.
Yeah.
And then they stop, and that becomes an issue. So. For me, I'm like, well, it's okay.
Yeah.
For me, I don't mind initiating, and it's not reciprocal because I enjoy and I want to build intentionally.
Yes, yeah.
So that's the first thing, is to kind of get over that hurdle.
Yeah.
Then it's when I joined and got to meet people, there were different people that I felt like I'd really like to invest and get to know them better. I think these are. You get a sense of different people, and you think that it'll be just good for you for different reasons. And let me tell you that I reached out and was intentional to a lot of different people, and it didn't all work out.
Yeah.
So some is it wasn't reciprocated at all, so there was nothing there.
Yeah.
For whatever reason. Others were cool, I've connected with them, but not as much as some others.
Yeah.
So I haven't had the opportunity to go as deep, and there could be various reasons for that. I mean, the reality is maybe they've already got deep relationships with other people, and they, they are full already, and they don't have time, and that's okay. But then there were some, like Dan, where it was like, let's do this, and then it was reciprocated, and then we worked on it, and then it grew over time. So I think it's also just being able to say, okay, it's not going to work out with everybody, even if I try.
Yeah.
And to try and not get, I know it's hard, but not try and not feel rejected by it or whatever.
Yeah.
And just keep on keeping on until you start finding the right people that you can build with. And then I love our life group.
Yeah.
We've got a great life group. It's just kind of worked out.
Yeah.
All kinds of different people. Very different. And so it can get a little bit messy. But like I said, I really look forward to a Monday night. Even if I don't feel like it, I honestly know that if I go, even though I really don't feel like it, I always leave feeling encouraged.
Yeah.
And it's about just taking that step. So practical things is you got to make the effort and you got to push through. And sometimes it'll work out and sometimes it won't. But when it does, it's a huge blessing.
No, you're 100% right. Like I know, shout out to our life group. But yeah, you're not always going to feel like it. But I think what you're kind of explaining is those low hanging fruits.
Yeah.
So, there's coming to church, meeting people. If it's your first time, you're at the visitors table, you're meeting a couple of leaders or a couple of volunteers, and then serving is probably the next low hanging fruit. And as you start to serve in a team, you start to build community, and you start to figure out, okay, cool, this person's either different to me or there's some similarities. We can invest in a relationship here. Probably the next step is then getting involved in a life group where there's that, we'll talk on that thing, but there's that level of commitment where week on week you are meeting with the same people, you're going through the word, you're sharing about your life, and people are getting a little bit, getting to know you a little bit more, the side that you don't really get to just put up front in terms of like, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, you're in a rush, church can be busy on a Sunday. And often in small groups, you kind of get to kind of like unpack your life a little bit, be a bit more raw, be a little bit more vulnerable. But I think what you were talking with Dan is that in that thing is probably another step, and this is probably one of those harder steps, and it's probably either whether it's just a relational kind of step, but also even with discipleship, is that intentionality and going, okay, cool, listen, I see something in you that I want to invest in this relationship, and I know that I can bring something and you can bring something, and we can kind of like forge this relationship. And so, I think it's important for guys to kind of see those steps and realize that, like, serving can only take you so far. Life group can only take you so far. But if you're wanting to work out these relationships, and I love how we put it. I know we had a preaching sermon years ago, long before you came up to the promised land from Cape Town. But Pastor Grant would preach on, it was the rugged commitment to community. And I like that. And it isn't the smooth sailing. It's this, there's this rugged, rough, like a sandpaper thing. Like, the smooth, like you start to sandpaper stuff, like it's rough and it's not great, but that finished, polished product at the end is kind of what we're chasing after. But you kind of need that sanding to happen, and so there's that rugged commitment, and it's like, we're going to commit to this regardless of how rough and I think your sermon title was the friction, no matter how much friction there is, like, we're committed to this because with community you get out what you put in. And I think we often have this like weird perception that, especially when we come into, I think, a church environment, that it must be done for us, this community, people must meet our preferences, but you're only going to get out what you put in, and so I think it's so important for us to kind of, know that.
I think it's also a bit of a mind shift, like in the culture that we're in. So you're right. I actually didn't mention, I don't know if I mentioned the title, but I mean, it's like from friction to formation. And it's a mind shift to realize that when it comes to community, I mean, community is not there just to like fill my needs, but to actually form me.
Yeah.
And that forming is like, the iron sharpens iron and the friction. I mean, that is really what does make us grow. So the most I've grown is through the difficult times, through the friction. And like, just like a grinder on a piece of metal, there's lots of sparks and there's lots of friction, but it's required to be able to mold that thing into what it is intended to be.
Yeah.
So so I mean, that's definitely, I would say, just a bit of a mind shift in how community does like actually form me. And I'll just use like a silly example because I don't think this will relate to anybody's reality, so nobody will get offended. But I mean, say for example, and you got family of origin and how you grew up and culture things and that have formed you.
Yeah.
To a point where you think and believe and have ideals in a certain way, and then God uses community to mold that and change it. So like, I mean, say for example, when I grew up, my mother, like whenever I got back from school, she met me at the door with a box of chocolates.
Yeah.
And that was her. That for me was how she showed that she was a good mom, and she loved me and all my life. So now I come to life group and I've got like spiritual mom, for example, or whatever you want to call it. And I'm like upset now because when I arrive, they don't meet me at the door with a box of chocolates. And because for me, that is my expectation of, good community and family.
Yeah.
So, I'm sitting there and then, the life group says, "Hey, Justin, looking a bit, you're a bit upset or down. What's the problem?" I said, "Oh, you know what, guys? I'm like, I feel that, I want to be part of this group, but I just feel like it's not, not really meeting my needs. It's not really like what I expect." And you ask why. So, because I mean, I've come here now for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and nobody's met me at the door with a box of chocolates.
Yeah.
And they go, "Oh, okay." I says, "Yeah, because that's what real community is like." And then in that environment, we can say, "But Justin, do you know that's actually a little bit strange?" That expectation.
Yeah.
And you go, "Oh, really? Why?" And then we can start to have a conversation to show that that's not, really what is normal.
Yeah.
This is maybe your experience. And then we get to have those kind of conversations that start challenging us, informing us, based from our previous experiences. And that's what community does. But if I was never in community, I would just always expect that good community means I must get chocolates whenever I show up.
Yeah.
So if anybody in my life group's listening,
chocolates at the door, please.
Yeah, chocolates at the door, please.
If anyone in my life group is listening, Sour Patch Kids at the door, please. Sorry, I was looking for your notes earlier. You gave us a list, and this kind of goes into the list that you kind of gave us of kind of like the mistakes that we kind of make in terms of this community thing, and then kind of like the right way to kind of like these juxtaposed list. Would you kind of talk through?
Juxtaposed.
Awesome. My English is working today.
I thought of that when I prepared.
Would you kind of like walk us through kind of that list? I think it's so important for us to kind of like understand how we misconstrue in this concept of community and and I think you kind of touched the first topic now kind of a little bit. But let's go through that list.
No, that's good, and thanks for asking, because I think these are important. And also, we can see this in ourselves in practical ways. So there were 4 things. The first one was, we're saying we can sabotage communities, even though we don't realize it. And the one is like idealism. So that's where we have this ideal view of what community should be like, and then if it doesn't meet our expectations, we think there's something wrong with it. And we either and then we kind of pull out, like, no, we're not interested. It doesn't work, or it's not meeting my needs, or whatever, and try and find something else. And that's always dangerous, because idealism is not a reality. I mean, it's more consumerism than biblical, right? And we know, like, ideologies are challenged. We talk about political ideologies, and we see there's just the division and mess, I mean, right now in the world that causes. So instead of that, I said, to have a hopeful vision or a hopeful imagination. So that is like, it's not like I don't want what's good. It's like it's not possible. It's saying, like, I'm longing for deep community, and that's what I'm longing for. But I don't have an idea. The difference between that and idealism is that I believe there's many ways to get there, and my way is not the only way. And it's being able to, persevere through that. So you want what's good, but it's not like, well, my way or the highway kind of. So that was the first one. The second one was around individualism versus like a healthy interdependence.
Yeah.
And just to say, I mean, I think we live in a world and a culture that is very much me focused.
Yeah.
Constantly, and that is a danger because that is not what community is.
Yeah.
And we need a healthy interdependence, and that just really means, do you really believe that we need each other?
Yeah.
Then that's the first point. Because if you don't,
Yeah.
then community makes no sense.
Yeah, that's a great one because I know Tony Fitzgerald, it's always stuck with me. He had a saying that we reason from whole to part and not from part to whole. And that just means that when we come into community, often that happens, what you've just described, the individualism, is because we reason with church and we have a view and a mindset of church, and our viewpoint or our worldview of that is from me, the individual, to the whole. And rather, we should be walking in and realizing that when we come to church and to community, we change from me to we. And so we need to start to reason from whole to part, meaning, God, what are you doing in this space? What are you doing in this community? And what is my role within what you are doing? And so often we do it the other way around, and that's what breeds the whole of like, okay, cool, I'm out. This isn't for me. This doesn't fit me, because we're thinking of ourselves versus thinking, okay, well, there's more people, and so our mindset changes, and we need to have a mindset change from me to we.
So good. Yeah. I wish I thought of that. No, that's very cool.
No, it's stuck with me. It was just one of those things, and it's, I think it helps me when, like, if I start to see my preferences come through. Wait a second, it's actually not about me.
Yes.
There's more than one person here, so I've got a reason for the better of the community. And again, if the community does well, I do well.
Yes.
So we're not gonna benefit in isolation.
Yeah.
Then it's not a true community.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, brilliant. Yeah. So, I mean, that was number 2. Number 3 was just around inconsistency.
Yeah.
So if you want to just really experience the blessing and benefit of something, I mean, you got to be committed.
Yeah.
You got to prioritize it. You got to make the effort. And that just comes with everything that we do in our relationship with the Lord, and the formation that He does in us is that, yes, He makes everything available to us, but there needs to be something from us too. And we need to make the effort.
Yeah.
So if you want to benefit from community, there's got to be commitment. And then the last one is which is often a tough one, but it's a reality, is that we don't like conflict, so we avoid issues when they crop up. We'd rather hide away and not address it, or as they say, sweep it under the carpet, and that just creates problems, and that just really blocks any type of building community. It can create disunity, misunderstandings, divisions, and it just really just creates problems. So it's then about like being brave enough. I guess there's two responses. Some people, the handful of them, I don't know why, but they just love like conflict, so they will go all out and then do it in a really like destructful way, which is not what we want to address, trying to address issues. Most of us just avoid. But then it's to be brave enough to address them, mature enough to understand that there could be something else going on. So let's have the discussion, and then to graciously speak the truth in love, which the Bible tells us to do. Yeah.
No, I like that one because another Tony Fitzgerald.
Okay.
Another Tony Fitzgerald. What's that quote? And it's something, just one of the values that we've done as a church is that we put our issue on the table, not the relationship.
Yes.
And I think it's so important that the approach is also, you don't attack the character of the person, you attack the issue. So it's like, this is what happened. This is not who you are, but this is what happened. This is what you've done. This is how I feel. Those kinds of things. And so, I think it's putting the issue on the table, not the relationship. And so, I think it's so important because if you haven't built deep enough relationship, it's easy to jump to that conclusion that this person hates me, this person doesn't like me, because there isn't that relational equity to understand, or I mean, you could push it and say spiritual maturity to understand that what we're dealing with is the issue. You know, and that's the thing. So it's like deal with that issue, not dealing with the relationship. And the idea is that the relationship gets stronger after that. Issue is resolved to some extent. So I think that's so important, and I think that'll help us kind of work towards it. Like, look, we're not all people who go after conflict. I think you're right. A majority of us do avoid conflict.
I hate
but
conflict,
I think,
bro. I'm like, I just want everybody to be happy and be together in like peace and harmony.
I'm exactly the same. I'm like, look,
why do we have to have this problem? I don't want to deal with it. So.
I'm fine. I'm just like, if you have an issue with me, you have an issue with me. Like, I'm not going to lose sleep over you having an issue with me. We're not all going to be like the best of friends. But I think when it comes, and I think it's so important that like, but if we're going to work in community and we're going to be, you know, doing stuff, I think it's important that, we do kind of take those steps. I think who preached it a couple of weeks ago, but it was that thing of like, you know, they will know that you are my disciples by the love that you have for each other. And I think that's kind of the goal, you know. So that's our witness is really that conflict resolution.
So good, bro.
So, awesome. But I just want to ask one more question as we conclude. You might have already said it, but if there's just one takeaway, like they've watched your preach, they've maybe watched this episode of the takeaway. If there's just one thing that you'd want people to get out of what you spoke about, what would that one thing be? What would be that takeaway?
I think just give it a chance. And go all in and give it a go and persevere and be ready for the disappointment, but don't give up. There is blessing and benefit on the other side. Trust in Jesus, trust in his way and his method and his example, and just understand that it's not about what I want, it's about being formed to become like Jesus. And that's how God has designed it, to do it in community. So just give it a go. Just if you haven't joined one, found a group, try. Find one. If you're in one but you kind of just hovering around, is like lean in, go deeper. And if you've been hurt,
go again.
Try, ask God to help you find healing, find the right people, whatever that means. But just don't give up. It's important because you don't want to be alone. Just walk.
No, that's true. And community's worth it. So I want to encourage you. Thanks, Justin. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for the conversation. Cool. Trust that you guys have been encouraged by this conversation. Again, you can watch his preach on our YouTube channel. You can look under Standalone Preachers, and you can find it there, From Friction to Formation. And trust that you've been encouraged by this conversation. And if we don't see you next week, we will see you on Sunday. Have a blessed week. Cheers.